741. It's all what the youngsters are saying these days? Nah, no. Next on Live Free and Ham. Hello and welcome to the Live Free and Ham podcast. This is our weekly show where we discuss ham radio topics in New Hampshire, New England, and beyond. We're thrilled to have you here tonight. And so whether you're a regular listener, you're an AI, we're glad you're here. And thanks again for joining us in this episode. So let's get into the shows like we always do. I'm your host, Eric, N1JUR. I'm with...
It's the Grouch, Paul, N1OG.
Yep, and we are... before we introduce Rob, we are sans Todd today. So Rob is in his place. Well, Rob is sort of in his place. Rob is our guest today. So Rob, introduce yourself.
How you doing? I'm Rob, N1NUG, and also 741, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yes, as we know him by. So, all right. Well, before we get into our guest and our topic tonight, let's catch you up on some of the other Live Free and Ham stuff that you can join in on the community. Of course, head over to our Discord. You can visit us at Live Free and Ham. And the Discord link is in all of our show notes as well. You can always leave us a voicemail. If you got a question, maybe you've been racking your brain, need some help, feel free, pick up that phone, dial 978-233-1142. And as we always say, you can call us for a good time. And if you're so inclined and you love the All-Stars, we now have an All-Star Ham Hub, All-Star Hub, I should say, and that number is 580-871. And as always, because we've been slacking, and I have to admit and ask for your forgiveness, we were doing monthly live streams, but I think we got those intertwined with Nier and a bunch of other stuff. So we haven't done like a live stream since the Shack Roast, right? I think.
Yeah,
it's been a while. So our apologies, because we always like to do those once a month, but we just, somehow it just fell through a crack. So we're going to try as a New Year's resolution. I hate that word, but we are going to try to get in here and start doing these back once a month there. So hopefully you guys will tune into that. And so you can always hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified when we go live in the future. So, and if you'd like to support us, because we always love you guys and the support, you can always check out our storefront at livefreeandham.com/shop, and you can always become a Patreon member. And all of our Patreon members, as they all know, they get access to all of our free access to all of our episodes before they're released. They get a whole bunch of discounts and merch and free sticker packs, as well as access to our private Discord. And they get access directly to our private, live chat that we do for all of our recorded episodes. So we thank you guys that are all Patreon members, and folks like TJ, who's in the chat, and I think Mike will eventually be there too as well. So we thank you guys all for hanging out with us tonight and being part of that. And so as our trustworthy friend always says,
you can join for as little as $3 a month. It's not a big expense.
He's on the ball. Nice job. All right. Well, with that, we are going to dive into our usual mailbag here.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
Everybody, we got some news.
Slow down, Boog. Let me handle this. We've got some news. I've got bad news and bad news.
I have reviewed ship's personnel, Captain.
Congratulations. You've got...
All right. Well, as usual, Todd is not here to do our mailbag, but we do have a bunch of WinLink mails there. So N1OG, please fill us in. Who loves us this week?
All right. Well, these are old because we took last week off. So here's our Christmas emails. First one comes from M2MAK, and he titles it "No OE this time." But he writes, hello, Eric, Paul, and Todd. I figured I'd drop you a quick note from my contest station, the ICOM IC32AT, with its original antenna and the Mobilinked TNC4.
Wow.
Like your favorite drink, this radio just makes me happy every time I have it in my hand. And speaking of drinks, well done on the Shack Roast. I've seen some, and it looked like it was so much fun. I wish I could have been there for it live, but you've definitely given me some thoughts for next year. You should all be proud of the community and friendships you're helping to build too. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. 7-3, Mike N2MAK.
Nice job, Mike. Nice job. Got a tear.
And then we've got one more. This one also came in on Christmas Eve from Chris, KD9YSW, and he wrote, Merry Christmas to all of you and yours. Yes, Grouch, I mean Watson. It has been a week of ham radio screw-ups, getting the G90 firmware updated, and some ham successes. Activated US 4329 with the 706 Mark II-G. Yes, I am working on a video of the activation. On the G90 front, well, that is something a short I did after will explain. But thank you.
me robot like I type.
Sorry, Chris. I got to read it as you wrote it, man.
Yep.
Well, I will be activating a park on Christmas Day because, yep, why not when you're single? Maybe I will catch some of you on the air. New Year's will be home because I have the mini-me's. Merry Christmas, 7-3 KD9 YSW Chris. And Mike included us in his reply to Chris. And he said, nicely done, Chris. We've all been there when things just don't work out. Patience, persistence, and flexibility make a big difference, though. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone. 7-3 Mike and 2MAK.
I find Mike wrote back to Chris, but he didn't say anything there. Sorry for blowing up your G90. Because didn't Mike put out a video on flashing his G90 firmware, and he also suffered?
Yeah, I'm really behind on things, so it's entirely possible that I just missed that video.
Yep, he did. Rob, did you catch that video?
I'm also behind.
Behind, there's no problem there. I did catch it. I think I was very. I am not a firmware guy. I don't know how you guys stand, but like if my radio's working, I apply the if it ain't broken, don't fix it mentality. I don't care if there's like a known bug or whatever. You're the same way, Rob. You don't like applying
Generally,
firmware.
yeah.
Okay.
Unless there's some new feature or something that I really want, I leave it alone.
Okay. So yeah,
exactly.
Same thing. Yeah. I just, for me, I just don't understand the concept of like everybody moving to the latest firmware. You're always going to be in a place that you might cause yourself more headache than you really wanted to. And bottom line is I just don't have time for headache. I just need normalcy. And I need my radio to work.
Things to worry about.
I know, right? Exactly. It's like very much so. So, well, that is awesome, guys. Thank you again, always, for those win links. Appreciate all of that, feedback and back and forth. So keep them coming. I know Mike has got a couple of, we'll say, goals for 2026, and emails, and win link Wednesday is on his list. So we should hopefully be the recipients of more information from Mike.
Well, and if I could be just a little bit selfish here, sure. Friday night, I had a Weekend Warriors podcast live stream where the whole show was focused on setting achievable goals and making sure that you hold yourself accountable without punishing yourself, and setting those goals so that you can set yourself up for success. And so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, we went off the rails a few times, but that's okay. We came back on track, and I think we put out a lot of really good tips and suggestions on how to you just set yourself up for success and making your goals and
are you
achieving them.
Are you a simplistic goal generator, meaning like you don't do more than like say 5 or 6, or are you just like let's just do everything soup to nuts, and if I achieve half of them, I'm happy?
Well, I mean, in true military fashion, right? I tend to dream way too big. And so, I'll go, well, my goal for this year is, like, for example, with skydiving, I want to get my C license. I want to have 200 jumps. And it's like, well, I mean, that's a huge goal. And so if I don't actually think about it and go, well, how do I get there? What do I need to do? And break it down and go, okay, what I really need to do is I need to, have a minimum of, 4 jumps a week or 5 jumps a week, or whatever the number might be, then that's a much more manageable goal.
Mhm.
And so, even if I'm light on my goal for 1 week, it's not such a big kick in the balls where like, I just keep kicking the can down the road till December and I go, oh, I need to get 200 jumps in a month. Like,
Let's go
Yeah.
in. All right. Well, it's good to see that, your moderation with goals. Rob, you a goal setter for, New Year's, that type of stuff?
No, I'm not. And I'm generally not a goal setter at all, except when I am. Right. But I kind of follow, what Paul says. If I have some task or something that I want to do, whether it's radio related or otherwise, I try and set an overall goal and then I give myself milestones, like you were saying, so that you can kind of check in with yourself and say, am I making progress toward this? And can I achieve it? Or do I still want to achieve it? Or do I want to take a different path? That kind of a thing. But as far as like New Year's, no, I don't sit down and say, okay, it's 2026 and this is the year I'm going to do this. I don't do that. It's just whenever it comes up, that's when I kind of put it down and go for it.
When the mood fancies you, as they say.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe that's good or bad. I don't know, but it's just the way I do it.
You do you, as I say. And I would never, like, I've learned in my 30 years of marriage with my wife that trying to force my wife to do goal setting, a lot of times it's just like, she likes to do vision boards. And I have a vision board up here from last year. And I think we did 4 things out of the 19 categories that we had that we borrowed from other YouTubers or something like that. I'm just like, can we just do 5 categories with 1 goal and just like feel like we're achieving something? Because like we just did nothing. And it's like, I hate the it's a glutton of goal setting. I mean, it's just, let's create goals. Yeah, I'm totally with you guys. 100%.
But so that was one of the things that I actually talked about on Friday night was how, like so many people will create these big lofty goals. Like, oh, I'm gonna improve my health this year, or I'm gonna lose, a whole bunch of weight this year. And the thing is like, unless you really narrow it down to one specific goal in one specific category, and then find that path to achieving that one goal, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. The one thing I've learned with goals in general for me is like, they have to be very, like, I've learned very early on, and maybe, this may date me. When I was in school, I went to Sylvan Learning Center. If those that know it, like, they were very focused on teaching people how to do task planning and stuff like that. So I latched onto that hard. And so I was always like, create succinct task, definition. So it's like, there's no room for error. There's no gap. It's clear as day. You know what it is. And so I've always made the attempt to try to, make sure that those goals are like that. So, and
you write it down and you assign a deadline so that it's got some urgency to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. So
I do that at work. I don't want to do that when I'm not at work.
There's an honest man right there for you.
Yeah.
I carry around my, planner here. It tells me, and I can tell you, like, I have tasks. I have a task planner, but I abuse it, actually, is the way it kind of looks at it, because it's just a lot of times a brain dump of other things. So it's not really tasks, but then I have an actual like section in it that's actually task driven. So yeah, there's not a tool out there that can contain me, is the way I look at it, but it's all good. Cool. All right. Well, good on the goal settings there, as always, for sure. So with that, I guess let's kind of just roll right into our Ham Radio Week catch up. So as always, in usual fashion, we like to be able to, give our guest the guest of honor, the first shake at it. So Rob, what's your Ham Radio Week like, or not Ham Radio Week like?
Well, I'll be honest, it's been a little slow for me the last week because of the holiday and family being home and that kind of a thing. So I haven't done any I guess I did go do a POTA a few days ago. I don't even remember what day it was now because it's, that time of year. And being between jobs, I've kind of lost track of the days anyway.
Time in life, yep.
Yeah, so just some light ham radio stuff. I have some projects on the bench that I need to get to, and that's my goal for the next coming week or whatever you want to say. So I got that stuff upcoming. But one of the things I did do last week, not directly ham radio related, but maybe you saw the video. I took a walk on a local trail here in town. There's an old radio station here that's been dormant for a year or so now. And there's a public trail that goes right by it. And I've been there plenty of times. And it never occurred to me until earlier this week, gee, maybe I should bring the camera along and show everybody. So that's what I did. And it was kind of cool because I walked around the site. I mean, I didn't, go in the building or anything like that. I just kind of walked around the towers and showed the layout. And then just doing a little research on the station afterwards. And then reading, I posted the video Saturday and I got tons of good comments, people giving me information about how the broadcast station works and all kinds of stuff. So I learned a lot just from the comments, right? So that was a lot of fun. So now I want to try and do that again. There's other radio sites around that I want to kind of go check out without getting arrested and kind of learn about them, that kind of a thing. I think that would be pretty neat.
Well, from what I understand, there's a YouTube channel of a couple of guys that actually go around to the old radio stations, AM, FM, whatever, in the New England area, and they've done a few in the Connecticut area, definitely some in Mass that are all abandoned and stuff like that. And
I'll have to look that
interesting. It's like I don't know if you ever watch like the guys, the YouTube channel called Proper People. They're the guys that do all the walkthrough of like dead malls and, old abandoned, buildings and stuff like that. So they just do only radio stations or, broadcast stations or stuff like that. And so it's pretty cool to see. But it's amazing how quickly like people abandon those things and then they just sit there to rot. Yeah.
Well, this one's been, it's been there for about a year. And the reason I know about it is because the town, I'm on the town Conservation Commission, and we found out it was for sale. So we wanted to buy the land for open space, but I don't know. There's too much liability there with all the equipment and stuff, and they want way too much money for the property. So
how tall is the tower?
I don't remember. I think they're close to 200 feet. I'm not sure. There's two of them.
Okay. Yeah, I did see, and you have to excuse me. My backlog is a little bit behind, but you're on the list of watching that video.
You can't watch everything. I mean, there's so much content out there. You can't watch everybody's content. Seriously.
I'll try.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's one of my 2026 goals.
But yeah, I wanted to check the property out just, to see what was what. And, but it was neat. It was a learning experience. So,
cool.
So I want to do more of that if I can. I don't know where to go or what to do yet, but I'm going to be looking into that too.
Yeah.
Maybe I should make that a goal.
Dude, there's plenty of them. I mean, we've seen a few of the ads, or not the ads, the news releases with towers being taken down randomly from old abandoned transmitters and stuff like that. And so, not surprising.
Yeah. So that was my week. What about you guys?
Cool. Well, Paul, how was your ham radio week, sir? Go ahead.
Well, I actually did ham radio this week.
No freaking way.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I did a whole bunch of ham radio.
I was going to say you've done more than I have.
Yeah, so I did some different antenna testing to try and figure out what would work best for my RV situation here at the drop zone. Because, we're stacked on top of each other. The RVs are right on top of one another. There's just not space. I tried putting an end-fed half-wave up in numerous different configurations. It just wasn't working. I tried the Christmas lights. That was a fun little experiment. Excellent transmitting antenna. Looking at PSK reporter, I was getting out and I was being heard, and all the Christmas lights were lighting up, and it was great. But man, that freaking thing didn't hear shit. So I was super happy.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. I'll try the bigger bulbs next year. I was just happy. I made one FT8 contact on Christmas Eve with the Christmas lights from Florida to northern North Carolina.
Not bad.
Yeah, so not bad. And then I ended up putting the Rybakov up So that's what's currently up. But I'm going to take that down, and I'm going to put the Wolf River coil on the roof, and I'm going to put some little booties on the metal legs of the tripod so that it doesn't dig into the membrane of the roof. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some old plastic shopping bags. I'm going to fill those up with some sand, and use that as a weight to kind of center load the where the coax attaches, and
Nice.
keep it a little bit more firm up there. And then yesterday, the plan was to go to the Dade Battlefield State Park in Florida. And as I was 5 minutes out, I got a phone call saying, "Hey, we need to adapt and overcome and change plans because there is a current reenactment session going on at the Dade Battlefield."
Is that what that conversation was happening in the background? Like when I watched the live stream? I'm sorry, I thought it was the park ranger. So you were talking to reenactment people. That's awesome.
No. So we didn't end up going to that park because
bummer.
Yeah, I guess when Poda Power pulled in, they were like turned away. The people there were like, "Listen, if you're not here for the reenactment, fucking get lost." And so
Wow.
yeah, so we went to, some lake, Foff. Everything down here's got weird freaking names. Almost everything is a something coochie.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a pretty cool place. It reminded me of, like videos that I've seen of, BLM camping out west where, it was just big open nothing and all these people just boondocking and just having fun doing whatever. Really nice little pavilion. So I got to activate for just about 3 hours with the Poda Power, Julie and Vaughn. And I think we had 67 contacts in the log. So
Really?
yeah, it was a good time.
Wow, I would have thought at 3 hours you would have had a lot more, but bands were just tough.
Well, no, the thing is so because, Poda Power does things a little bit different, right? They live stream. And so there's chat going on across the picnic bench. There's chat going on between one or two of the operators and the YouTube. And there's also, like people walking up going, "Oh, are you guys setting up security cameras or Wi-Fi? Like, what are you guys doing over here?"
Wow.
And so it was definitely not the fast paced kind of like let's hammer through contacts, which it's great. Like it's good to see the different styles that other Parks in the Air activators have.
Yeah.
Yeah. They definitely handle their activations very, focused on the YouTube side. It's always comical and interesting and entertaining to watch them for sure.
Oh, it was a ton of fun. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds like it was.
I've only contacted them maybe once or twice, and both times it was pretty quick, but it was definitely worth the effort to try to break the pileups because Jules gets into this like conversation. She knows her people. She knows the folks that she's had repeat offenders kind of thing. And so, I have to say, like, nobody commented on the fact that I was like, "Dude, where's the star of the show?" And I'm like, they were like, "Paul." I'm like, "No, where the hell's Watson?" And nobody said anything in the chat whatsoever.
Oh no, Watson got lots of attention from the chat. There was one point where like Julie or Vaughn or the both of them wanted Watson to like kind of come up and say hi, and he like literally just jumped up right in between them. It was like, here I am.
Now, was it required that you had to have all the same like outfit, like in color? Because it literally was like watching the army.
Yeah, that was purely coincidental. So I wore my it's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot shirt.
Right.
But it happens to be the exact same color as the Grouch Army shirt. And so Julie was wearing the Grouch Army shirt. And then Vaughn was wearing N2MAK's Leave No Band Behind, VHF one. and it happened to be the exact same color. Yeah, so we were all matching.
Yeah, it was literally just like this green stripe like that went across, and I couldn't make out, Julie's shirt, but I'm like, that looks like his Grouch Army shirt, but I couldn't tell, so I was like,
Yep,
right.
Yep, it was the Grouch Army shirt.
Oh, very cool. Dude, that sounds awesome. Sounds like you had fun.
Absolutely. What about you, Eric?
Well, I for Christmas week, I didn't really do a whole lot of POTA. I got a bunch of little trinkets here and there that, that I decided to do a couple reviews on the channel with, which will pop out soon. So Patreon members, pay attention. But Tortoise hit me up. I had done my usual weekly brew and activate with Shannon. And of course, she was a little sick and under the weather, but she was still a trooper out there and, hanging out and managed to chat. But while I'm in the middle of that, Tortoise is texting me constantly. And then he calls me because he can't get a hold of me. He calls me after. And then I'm like sending him messages saying, dude, I'm in the, I'll call you back later. He'll call me back later. Because I knew on Thursday he had talked to me. He's like, hey, let's do a POTA on Friday. I'm like, yeah, it's great. No problem. I'll ping you after brew and activate. No problem. At end 11. He's like, oh, I'll be done. No problem. Yeah, all good. He must have got out early, and he constantly blew up my phone while I'm in the middle of this. I'm like, that's it. I threw it over the corner, and then I finally called him after, and I was like, dude, I was in the middle of brew activate. He's like, oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, yeah, really? Because everybody in the chat was like, dude, why is Tortoise torturing you? And so, for what it was worth, I said, yeah, well, we still doing a chat. We still doing an activation. And he was like, yeah, sure, let's go. And so we went over to Robert Frost's historic site. So 8032 or 23. Yeah, good spot. The parking lot is a sheet of freaking ice. So literally you come down the hill and you just keep going even on the brakes. And so you kind of glide into your spot and set up. And so, we turned my truck around, parked, set up on the tailgate. We strapped my 10-meter mast, and he threw out the NFED. Was the NFED or is it a random wire? No, it was a random wire Reliance. Apparently in the middle of all that, another company, a local 4x4 company was rebuilding a, what the heck is this? Safari Jeeps, the right-hand drive Safari. The
Range Rovers?
Yeah. Range, like original Range Rover, Safari branded, the whole thing. They had rebuilt it from the ground up, and they were doing a kind of a video of it. So they had like a drone, like we're in the middle of our activation, a drone's flying over our head while they're taking pictures of this thing. And then they're all running around taking photos. And we were sort of in the shot. So it's like, I don't know what these photos are going to look like with these ham radio guys, as well as this, Safari, Range Rover, but a beautiful Range Rover. I mean, it was like original, done over the whole entire thing. And so they left, and so, we activated pretty well. I know we had Rabbit Ham hit us up, but we had a bunch of different people. I was surprised because Tortoise started off with like, oh man, did you see the SFI index? I'm like, no, I don't really pay attention to it. It's like, well, it's really bad. I'm like, well, then why are we activating today? Like, he's just like, well, now we're going to try it anyway. So we started, we were on 20 meters, and man, it was like gangbusters the whole entire time. We had like 20 contacts or so, and it's only 20 contacts because it was freezing. It was 7 degrees with the wind chill, my friends. And we were not in my truck. We were, kind of just out there. And when the wind wasn't there, the sun was fine. It kept it just at bay. But when the wind kicked in, it was like, oh my gosh. And of course, like I didn't, have the gloves that had the touch sensitive. So I had to take my glove off every time. And my fingers were starting to freeze to the screen. And I was this is ridiculous. But, I toughed it out, as everyone says, like, you're a wussy, or, you fill in the word there, whatever you want for, calling me what you want in terms of winter activations. But dude, that was brutal, especially when the winds picked up. But, 20 contacts is pretty good for, maybe 20, 35 minutes total of an activation. So yeah, we hung out, it was good. And, after that, I laughed at Tortoise because he had his company vehicle, which is only 2-wheel drive. And he literally had to get a running start from all the way in the back of the parking lot to get up the hill to get to the part of the main drag. So we were just laughing at him, but it was a blast. It was fun. So yeah, I got my first POTA in.
I'll give you the same offer that I gave him, right? I know Todd wants to use my ice fishing tents for field day.
Sure.
But if you want to use the small one for a park activation, Dude, it sets up in 5 minutes. You throw a little heater in it, propane tank outside, or you can get the little green bottles and you just have the whole thing inside. And then you'll be like nice and warm.
I'm hurt, dude. You don't know me. One of my activations, they're no more than half an hour, 45 minutes. So if I can't toughen it out, then I do not need to be a POTA guy.
I cheat in the wintertime. I sit in the back of my Suburban with the buddy heater.
That's
the
totally
propane
fine.
heater.
Like, I could see that. Like, I've got the battery pack. I can throw it in the truck. And Tortoise confessed, on video that the day before when he did his activation, he did it from the comfort of his vehicle. So, it's very doable. I am, what caused me. But all that said is that we actually ended up having two random people, looks like a father and son, who was actually hiking around the park, which was very and they weren't wearing hats and they were just short sands of a thick jacket. They looked like they were going to wear t-shirt and shorts walking around the park. It was kind of ridiculous, but they stopped and they asked, and come to find out that the son had I don't know when he graduated from high school, but he's like, oh, I went to BG, and he knew about ham radio because they did all the satellite contact and the ISS contacts that they do yearly with the students and stuff. And so, yeah, I gave him a bunch of stickers, hung around with them. Pretty cool. I got a video out, so if you're interested in seeing that activation, that'll be out on the channel and hopefully released soon. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, I forget how much I love POTA, especially when you don't do it a lot. And, for whatever reason, I know that's sad to say, I'm running a ham radio, centric YouTube channel and podcast. But yeah, it's just been tough, man. So all that being said, it was fun. Cool. All right. Well, enough of me. So I guess for guest of honor tonight, we invited Rob on, and we thank you for accepting to come on tonight and hang out with us as well. It's been a blast. I mean, we all know Rob. Rob and I go, we've crossed paths several times along our ham, paths and whatnot. And I bumped into him when I first started, getting back into ham radio and talking, YouTube and that type of stuff. And so Rob's been in and out with, Northeast Ham Radio and a bunch of different stuff up here in the Northeast. So, we've always, in one way or another, people either know of each other or know of Rob, and so it's really cool. But he is obviously the curator, the content maker of 741 Radios and Repairs. So if you haven't checked his channel out, the link will be in the description below. But make sure you go over and check him out. He's been doing it. How long you been doing your channel, Rob?
17 years or whatever. Yeah, about that.
Wow. Okay.
Almost. Yeah. Just started kind of fooling around in the garage years ago with a camera and doing all kinds of stuff, repairing lawnmowers, my car, motorcycles. And it just one thing led to another, mixed in ham radio, and then things kind of started taking off. So I still kind of do, dabble in a little bit of everything. I don't stick to purely ham radio, although I probably do about 75% ham radio lately. Okay. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of where it's at. It's just something I do in my spare time.
Okay. And so was it, so I always have to ask a question because I know how I started my channel, and Grouch has I was pushing Grouch in that direction to start a channel. So I know why he started.
It's all Eric's fault.
Pretty much. But the question is, how did you get going with yours? I mean, did you just, you started the repair stuff first and said, hey, someone can benefit from this? Or what was the impetus behind it? Because 17 years is a long time.
It is. So what ended up happening was my buddy and I used to tinker with stuff a lot when we were younger. He'd come over to my house and we were always in the garage working on something. I had an old car, lawnmowers, motorcycles, whatever. He had old trucks, different things. And so around the same time, we both kind of got digital cameras that could record video. And we were messing with those too a little bit. And then we weren't really putting anything on YouTube, but our shift or his job changed. And we no longer were able to hang out on Friday nights like we always had. And so I said, well, you know what? I'll tell you what, Scott. I'll record what I'm doing on this camera and I'll put something on YouTube. And of course, that was around 2009 or so. So YouTube was still pretty new, right? Um,
2005 is when YouTube started. I had to look that up. So
yeah. So it was only a few years after it had started, and people were still kind of, just
what is this?
doing whatever, right? So I said, oh, well, hey, there's this YouTube thing. It's free. I'll make some videos and put them up there and you can see what I'm working on. And he said, oh, okay, cool. Right. So I did that. Very short, simple videos. I don't think I even talked in the videos. They were all just, vignettes of what I was doing and, just random clips put together. And so I posted those and I didn't know any better. I didn't know how to make them private or public or whatever. I just put it up there.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, I'm starting to get comments like from random people. I'm like, what is this? I'm getting emails telling me people are asking me questions. Like, what are they asking me questions about? And then I realized it was from the videos. So I said, oh, okay. So other people are watching these. And at first I was like, oh, I got to make this private. But then I said, you know what? No, I'm going to leave it and see what happens. Mm-hmm. So then I did that and made a few more videos, and one thing led to another, and I got an email from YouTube. Now, back then, the partner program was by invitation, right? Mm-hmm. So they saw a little bit of traction. They invited me to join, and I said, oh, okay, maybe if I do this regularly, it'll take off. So I started just kind of doing it. When I had a project I was working on, I made a video about it, and as time went on, I got more and more comfortable with the camera. I started talking in the videos, like voicing over the stuff. And then eventually I showed my face. And for whatever reason, that's when things started kind of going. You would have thought it would have tanked at that point.
Well, yeah, I would have thought my own channel was that way. When I put my face out there, it would have just gone right in the tank. But yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the summary of it. And like I said, I've kept doing it just because I usually get, good comments or good questions. And I learned, like I was saying before, I learned something from it too. And that goes even way back when I was in school. I learned that I learned better when I explained something to somebody else. So
right.
Like if I'm working on something, it helps me remember for the next time what to do.
And the one thing I find with a lot of your videos, and I caught it way down the line, like, probably the last 4 or 5 years, in terms of just, watching your channel, like you will always be like, I tried this, but it didn't go that way. And you put it on video a lot of times and you're like, well, it blew up in my face, but we're going to try a second time. And, here we go. And it works. So, it's good to see that iteration.
Part of the process, right. And, there's a lot of stuff I cut out too, but I think it's important to show the failures, right? Because not only is somebody else going to run into that, it shows that you're a human being. And I'm not doing this for my own ego or to say, oh, look how great I am. I'm the world's best radio repair guy. I'm far from it, right? So I want to show you what I screwed up and what I went through to learn what I learned to make it work right. Yeah, or sometimes sometimes it's a complete failure, and I'll show that too,
Which I haven't seen many of them. Do you have one that you remember fondly?
I had this digital camera I tried to fix, like the camera I used to film my videos on. Oh. And I don't know, I dropped it or something like that. And it was one of those ones, the lens doesn't come off. It's just part of the camera. So I tried to fix it. And I made 3 videos going through the whole thing. It was so intricate. I put it all back together. It still didn't work. But I said, I'm going to post this anyway. I don't care. There's other things I've probably put since then, but that one I remember the most because I had a lot of work in that video.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned that, like for me, like the buddy heater video that you did a while back, I started to watch that one. I was like, yeah, that's a simple fix, but at the same time, like how many people, like, I mean, maybe Paul not, but I know like a few other of my friends would be like, it's broken. I'm going to go buy another one and move on. And like, it's a simple like filament fix and, boom, you clean it out and you're back up and running.
Well, and that's a good comment too, because some of the stuff I'll do might seem simple to you or I or Paul or anybody, right? Like, why are you making a video about changing a headlight in your car, right? Well, there's somebody out there, or there's a lot of somebodies out there that don't know how to do that or are doing it for the first time, right? And so I haven't done a lot of that lately, but in the past, I've done some of those simple fixes just because it's easy for me to record them and get content on the channel, but also because it helps people. People want to see that stuff. So there you go. But I haven't done like that stuff lately. I just haven't had the time, but.
You got something, Paul?
Well, so all right, I just wanted to give Rob some props here, right? All right, so he joined YouTube February 13th of 2009.
Mm-hmm.
He currently has 53.5 thousand subscribers, 631 videos with 21,767,730 views.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's impressive.
That is commendable, good sir.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I don't even pay attention to it, to be honest with you. I mean, I know I was around 53.
A small little, like, part-timers here are like, I'd love to be at 53,000 subscribers. And he doesn't
but look at how long it took me to get there, right?
Granted, like, I look at Beard Beats Food and he has like 5 million and he's been doing it 8 years or 9 years or something like that. And so, yeah, I get it. I mean, it's a labor of love. And if you do it because you love doing it versus, making it a moneymaker, then it's going to show. And your videos 100% show that all the time. And that's what attracts me. I'm always going to click on your video before I click on any other video that I have in my usual feed, just because I know I can like feel like I'm not being sold something or I'm not like told that I'm an idiot. I just I just feel like it works.
Oh, I appreciate that. And yeah, and that is one thing. Now, I've done product reviews, but I don't do them from the spirit of trying to sell anybody anything. If I do a product review, it's because I'm curious about the product. Mm-hmm. And I want to see what it is. I want to see how it works. And I'll share the process with everyone else. I don't care if they buy it or not. That's your decision, right? You know what I mean? I just want to play with it, right? And hopefully, you want to see me play with it, right? And that's kind of the mindset that I approach everything with. It's not about trying to get subscribers or clicks or anything like that. For me, it's just, let's have some fun. Let's make some video and just show you what I'm doing, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. And it's worked. I mean, it's the tortoise approach, slow and steady over the years. And like I said, people seem to like it. So I keep doing it.
I think what is like, people are drawn to authenticity, right? And that's you. Like, you are just like, look, I'm just a regular dude, and this is what I'm doing, and I hope you gain some benefit from it. And that's appealing to a very broad audience.
Yeah. That's 100%. The stuff I like to watch myself, Yep. So that's just
I mean, I've changed lots of door handles, but I've never changed one on a Suburban. But I know how to now.
Yeah, and so do I. I got to do it again because one of my Boy Scouts ripped it off again.
Oh, no.
In his defense, GM had a poor design on that thing, but...
Yeah, you can't blame GM for that because they're not there to defend themselves. So
I can blame GM for that.
For sure. Yeah, that's like the Toyota Tundra tailgate latches. Dude, I've replaced mine at least 4 times in the 7 years I've owned the truck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They don't make stuff like they used to. It's all.
Oh my gosh, we just sound like old guys. This is the
I know.
now.
But yeah, I mean, one of the other things, and I guess one of the things that we kind of wanted to talk about, or that we discussed, Eric and I, is that one of the things I started doing recently, because I had a little more time to kind of make extra videos, was that I wanted to start making what I'll call positive videos about ham radio, right? Now, along the lines of kind of talking about YouTube and what's popular, we all know drama sells, right? And we all love to watch drama. And of course, being a ham radio community that we're in right here, we all love to hear about what's wrong with ham radio or why is it dying. There's whole channels devoted to that now. And it was making me, I don't want to say making me sad because I hate the term sad ham and I'm not a sad ham, but it was making me sad that there's actually people making channels devoted to the negative aspects of ham radio.
The term you want to say is melancholy. You're feeling melancholy.
Yeah. Disappointed. So I'm seeing all of this stuff and, I'm like, well, how do we change that? Right. So I could get on and do a rant. And I guess maybe what I'm doing now is a bit of a rant and a bit hypocritical, but I don't want to start ranting and say, you have to be positive, because that's the same spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're just arguing with each other, and we don't want to do that, right? We don't want to argue. We're all on the same team. We all love radio, don't we? So,
Yep.
So instead of even acknowledging the negative stuff, I just wanted to start making videos about positive stuff. So I started thinking about some stories, from my ham radio life, and started sharing those, and inviting people to do the same, right? Either send me an email or a video, or share a comment, something that I can use to kind of make a video that spins things in a positive way without talking about anything negative at all. And I've put out a few videos like that now, and of course yours is one of them, Eric. So I appreciate you sharing your story with everyone, because I think it was a great story about how you met your Elmer when you were in the Scouts, and he kind of guided you and got you involved in ham radio. And I've done a few others. I did one. I think you guys know Tom from Tom's Radio Room show.
Oh, yes.
He reached out and said, hey, everybody tells me shortwave is dying. He says, but I'm over here listening to shortwave every day. Let's talk about that, right? So we did, and that worked. That video was great. A lot of people, seem to like that one. I've got a few others on deck. I've got a guy from Australia that I communicate with through email. And he sent me some great information about the JPC-12, right? So I'm going to turn that into a video in the next week or two, talking about how, hams across the globe help each other with these problems, and share their experiences so other people don't have these problems, that kind of a thing. So there's that. But anybody that's listening here, to this podcast or watching on YouTube or whatever, the other thing I want to do is challenge you guys to share your story, whether you send it to me and I make a video about it, or you just bring it up at a local club meeting and say, hey, you know what? I made a contact with, Saudi Arabia this week, and that's the furthest I've ever gotten. Let's start talking about that instead of talking about how, I was doing a POTA activation and somebody stepped on my, frequency or whatever. Don't even talk about that. Talk about the positive stuff, or share that stuff somehow, whether it's a forum post or you're on your local repeater net, your weekly net, and you're just talking about things or whatever. Just talk about the positive stuff, because there's so much more of it in this hobby than there is the negative stuff, and I'm guilty of it too. We all want to talk about the drama. We all want to, stop that stuff from happening, but it's not going to stop if we keep dwelling on it. We've got to focus on the good stuff. So that's one thing that I wanted to kind of say today and encourage everyone. And like I said, if you're not comfortable sharing it on your own platform, send me an email, send Eric an email. He'll put it on the podcast here or whatever. Send it to anybody. And, we'll be happy to share that stuff for you.
So, Rob, I think, real quick. I just think that what you're talking about is really important, right? Because negativity will breed negativity, and positivity will breed positivity, and it's so easy to get sucked into the negativity because of the way that our minds are wired, and so it really takes that extra effort to go, yeah, well, these things were problems, but this, and this were wins, and to focus on those wins. And so you're doing a great thing in trying to break that cycle by not demanding that people, lean into the positivity, but you're showing by example, and so you're breaking that cycle by your own example.
Yeah. Dude, that's what it is. I mean, like, it as you hit it on the head, and Rob, mentioned, it is very much easy to fall into the trap, as they say, to just, fall, I'm going to be the next guy on 80 meters to complain about, whatever. But, it takes effort, dude, Nick, to be able to put your story out there. And like, for me, it kind of, I don't know if it came off in a weird way or whatever, but like when I started to do it, I went back and watched it again. And I was like, that's my story, and it's a good story, but it's a good story because they're people that impacted my life in a positive way, not like in a way that they were there to tear me down, or they were there to make things like, oh yeah, he's never going to be this, or he's going to be a no-code technician for the rest of his life. He's never going to be amount to anything whatsoever. He doesn't know CW kind of thing. And so like, I always try to find like the positive side in things all the time. And, Rob, you're right. Like where you go into clubs, like, dude, you could sit next to, anybody for that matter, and they're always first to be like, oh, well, back in my day, we didn't do it that way. Or, there's always some way you just you have to decide, like literally at that moment, like, dude, am I going to let that like penetrate into my brain and take, root, or am I going to be like, screw this, we're going to say more positivity. I'm going to be more of a positive person on purpose for the purposes of making ham radio the focus, and not like you complaining about, whether the world sucks or, whatever else. So I think you're definitely, you've got a big challenge ahead of you, but hopefully there are more people. And I keep trying to encourage folks to submit their stories. Have you gotten more stories in terms of that area from, people's lives and stuff like that?
I've gotten a few emails and comments, and, with the holiday and stuff, I haven't gotten through everything, but I need to get back on track and start, sifting through. And it's tough because not everyone is, they're not going to write, a story for you. They're going to give you a paragraph if you're lucky. But there's certain things that I can go back and I can work with that, right? And even if it's a 3-minute video, it doesn't matter, right? I just want to put it out there and say, look, this person had this experience with ham radio, and it made their day, and that's all it needs to be, right? And I'm not saying that we need to sweep the negative stuff under the carpet and ignore it, right? Because there's some things that we need to address and fix, but we don't need to put them on YouTube constantly, right? And we don't need to air that dirty laundry, so that when somebody that's never been introduced to ham radio before, or just knows of it peripherally, right, and they suddenly get interested in it, and they go to YouTube and say, let me look up some information on YouTube.
What do they get for the first
video? And the first thing they get is a video showing them some conversation on 7200. Why are we showing
ham radio's
people
dying?
That? Right? We don't want to show people that, right? If they're anything like me, they're going to say, well, geez, this is a lot like a day at work. I'm not going to participate in this hobby. I'm going to go fishing, or so, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm not saying people have the right to do whatever they want. I'm not saying people shouldn't post that stuff, right? That's up to you. Like Paul said, I'm trying to lead by example, right? And I'm going to start trying to share my positive experiences and be positive about things. And, for your example, Eric, if I walk into a club and somebody starts giving me that, we always did it this way, we're not going to do things. Okay, I'm going to walk out of that club and I'm going to find another one, or I'm going to start my own. And we're going to do things, a positive way, right? We're not going to...
I must be the glutton for punishment, but
yeah, so that's, and that's just the mindset that I want to have, right? And I'm not saying that we're never going to talk about negative stuff or like I said, address that stuff, because some of that stuff needs to be addressed, and we all need to come to an agreement on some of the stuff, because it's a big hobby. There's a lot of people. We all have different viewpoints. We're not going to agree on everything, right? But I think we can have those discussions in a positive way and do it more respectfully than maybe we have been. But yeah, I want people to see the positive stuff and share their story. Paul was talking about POTA Power. They're a great example. I don't see them complaining about stuff. They're out there having fun doing POTA, right? That's what we all should be doing.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because you say that, because like we did for a while on a segment. I think we should probably bring it back just a little bit, or just keep it kind of fresh in people's minds, are doing good stuff.
Yeah.
We were doing that for a while, and I know it kind of went, busy, and people just weren't contributing stuff, or we felt like we were doing, too much of our own stuff, telling those stories. But yeah, it's a lot like, now you have two outlets, guys. So as you listen to this podcast now and you feel compelled to move, and in your story, here's the thing, is that your story is some story somebody wants to hear. Don't ever think that it's like less, or it's not like cool enough, or it's not like, oh, I did like Eric, where he went from Boy Scouts to getting his ham radio license to having a mentor. And like, you could be like Paul. Paul started in the hobby, very early, and he's had a short career, but dude, he's done a lot, and he's had a lot of great influences and positive people in there, and that's something to tell.
And he is a positive influence as well. You know, he's turned that around, and here he is. So
better.
Well, one thing I want to add in here, is I'm really glad that you're on to talk about this in depth, because like when I saw the first video that you had come out with, kind of mid-December there, where you were talking about the Elmer and how you wanted to hear the positive stories about that. I thought that you were looking for Elmer positive stories, and one of the things that like I kind of am somewhat displeased with is I never had an Elmer. So like YouTube has been my Elmer. And TJ said YouTube University is a real thing. It is.
It is.
But just because you're self-learning and you're taking it upon yourself to figure these things out doesn't mean that there's not a positive story there to share. And so I appreciate that. And I'm gonna write you up something nice. I'll think of something good.
yeah, that would be good. And I'd love to share it, or just share it here on your podcast. And it doesn't even have to be anything big. Just what I'm challenging people to do, right? So we have this, maybe a good example. We've all kind of dealt with this here because we all, enjoy POTA. At one point or another, we've been doing a POTA activation and somebody has come on and jammed us, or, you've been on the work bands and POTA's a contest, or, right? And our natural reaction is to argue with that person, right? I'm challenging you to just change the frequency. Get mad, I'm not saying, hide your feelings, suppress your emotions. I'm not good either. But it's just ham radio. Just change the frequency. Let that guy go pound sand, right? You don't give him the satisfaction that he ruined your day or whatever. Don't let it ruin your day. Just go to a different frequency, or work through it. Pretend you can't hear him. That's usually what I do.
Well, remember the adage, an old Elmer used to tell me, the reason why the VFO knob is so big, so you can spin the dial to go away from wherever you are. So yes.
I hate to use a cliche, but be the bigger person, right? And just, dude, it doesn't matter, right? but anything like that, just little things, right? You got that grumpy guy in the club and he starts giving you an earful. Just walk away from him. That's what I do. I don't want to hear him. So I walk away from him and go talk to my friend that's not, giving me a hard time. Right? and you can't always get away from it, right? So, it's you're going to have arguments, whatever. But the underlying theme here is I'm encouraging everyone to be positive.
TJ says, be the big person. Power up the amp.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is an option, TJ.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, though, is, just work through the problem and don't acknowledge it. That's, but yeah, I mean, when we can all do it. And again, you don't have to send me a video or an email or anything. Just like I said, you're out in public, you're at your club meeting, you're on the repeater. And instead of telling everybody that you had a bad POTA activation because somebody jammed you, tell them, hey, I made 30 contacts and one of them was, Saudi Arabia, right? Don't worry about the negative part. You made your activation, right?
Well, dude, you're right, because like how many of us have, like, our club has a weekly net or daily net that it's been going on for 5 years plus. And how many times do I listen to that net and it's like, oh, I went to the dump today, or I went to this, or it's like, or I got my annual I don't know, you fill in the blank, whatever it is in terms of medical visit. How many people actually, and I'm at fault too for this, because I don't know about you, but like a lot of times I forget or I blank, or it's like when I'm on it, I'm like, I could have told them about like all the fun I had doing a POTA, or the people I got a chance to talk to who might happen to. My daughter is playing with shadow puppets in the background here.
I saw
that. This is the life of a YouTuber, my friend. This is what I get. Family is like, ha ha ha, daddy's funny. But guess what? He's 5,000 subscribers, in front of all their friends. But she is a ham, so I'll give her some slack there. But like just, being able to think in those terms of like when you get a chance to have the podium or the soapbox to say something in a way that, like you just suggested, Rob, like, share some of your POTA events, share something of the fun stuff, or maybe share a failure that you're like, hey, dude, I learned something from this, because that's okay too.
Yeah.
One person can take a net that is going downhill fast on 80 meters, right? And I'm not saying the net is taking place on 80 meters. I'm saying hypothetically, right? It's that 80 meter style. But one person saying something good and, will spark the next person to be like, oh, yeah, hey, and there was this thing that I did, yesterday, and, or whatever, like, my coffee was fantastic this morning. Whatever little thing it is can dramatically shift the whole net.
Yeah. Yeah. That paradigm or that mindset shift. Just
100%.
Get it out of the gutter and let's move something forward. And that's a good example too, because I've got a friend here locally that gets on the 2 meter repeater a lot, and he's such a positive, upbeat guy, right? And he's done so much to make this repeater in this club that I belong to, just a positive kind of experience for everyone. And whether he knows it or not, right? I don't think that's not his intention.
Style.
It's not an agenda. It's just how he is. And that has attracted other people that are positive and enthusiastic about radio and the hobby and the club to be part of the repeater nets and to be part of the club. And the club has really grown because of it. Not just because of him, but being the one that's on the repeater the most. He's here who you hear. And it just sets that culture. It sets that tone. So you're right, Paul. Just one person on the net, one comment, it really can shift things and really change the dynamics.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny you say that story, because Paul knows this. We have one 20-something in our club, but just in general, KC1REK, Paul, if you know the call sign, Anthony.
Yep.
He is he started in the ham radio hobby, and he's like a typical fixture on the repeater up here in this neck of the woods. And it's a big footprint of a repeater, so a lot of people can reach it from a very far distance. He is always one that's just like naturally there. He'll have a conversation. He's always one to just be like positive about whatever it is. He'll talk radio. He's very much a good example in that sense of just being able to encourage others to hop on. And at one period of time, a few older folks that were on this machine tried to chase him off, and they were like, what the hell? Like, and it's funny because what happened is that everybody else in that community rallied against him, including the repeater owner, and said, screw you. Sorry, we're not going to, like, this is not, like, Anthony has a home here. This is the place to be. He's a positive light for us. He makes, he's the hub of the repeater, exactly like your friend there. And he, you can always guarantee that he's always available for a conversation, no matter what time, any of the time of the day, no matter what. And, he does his best to do whatever he can when he can. And it's awesome to see something like that, because that's what the ham radio hobby needs. We don't need, grumpy people constantly going, I can't hear you.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying we should necessarily argue with those grumpy people or try and chase them away. We want to coexist with them because, they're part of the hobby too.
Yep.
And again, we're all on the same team, right? But in that example, like where we might get into or we used to get into a situation like that. We had a guy on the repeater who, he passed away a year or two ago, but every now and then he'd get on there and he would be the negative voice, and he would argue with people over stupid things, right? And the natural reaction is to argue back, or even, behind the scenes, talk to him and say, look, you can't be like that. And we don't even want to do that. The best thing I found is when you get into that situation, it starts to escalate. I just sign off. Okay, sure. I got other things to do, right? I want to go watch a movie with the family or whatever. And then the next day, it's all forgotten about and we're back to normal, right? There was no argument, no nothing. And then in that way, we don't know who's listening on a scanner, or like a new ham just got a radio and is tuning in for the first time. We don't want their first experience to be a couple of old guys yelling at each other, right? So yeah. So yeah, and that was, and that's kind of how we handled that guy when he was around. We just, okay, thanks, Walt. Well, I'll talk to you later. I got a phone call. See you later. Go. And I just wouldn't talk to him anymore, right? Because I couldn't.
Yep. Yeah. You basically just, create boundaries, but at the same time, create healthy boundaries that basically set you up for maybe an opportunity that they can recognize that they did wrong and then change. And if they don't, oh, well, hey, that's just the way it goes. You can't change that for them, but you can be the change. And so, yeah, you're definitely doing, you got a big nut to crack, but at the same time, communities can help, as they say.
Yeah. And that's why I'm here talking to you guys, because I can't do this myself, right? I can start, I can do it on my channel. I can do it in my life and my clubs and stuff, and that's why I'm encouraging everyone else to kind of do the same, right? If focus on the positive and at the end of the day, you'll feel better too, right? Because you won't have all that toxic 100%. Energy, built up and stuff. Mm-hmm. And you can go out and just have fun with your radio and not worry about who you're going to argue with, right?
That's the funny part is and I talked this with Paul on several, you go into ham radio clubs, a lot of them don't even do ham radio. It's like, is this a ham radio club? That's why I'm here as a hobby. This is the fun part, the communication, the building, the, antennas and all of that stuff. That's why I got into the hobby. And if you're not doing that, where did you lose that? I don't understand,
It's an old man's social fraternity.
It is.
Yeah, it can be. And to Paul's point earlier, sometimes if you don't have a local club or the only local clubs in your area are like that, you've got to walk away and you've got to turn to YouTube or social media and find that inspiration from the guys that are doing the stuff that you want to see and do. Guys like, Josh and Mike and everybody on, YouTube doing all this cool, fun stuff and having fun with it. Right. Unfortunately that's the case sometimes, but I also say there's nothing stopping anybody from starting their own club as well. Right. It's hard for a new person to do it if you're brand new to ham radio, but if you've been around a while and there's, not a good club in your area, maybe it's time to start a new one and not to compete with the old one, but to just do something different that they're not doing.
Yes, I agree with that. But at the same time, I feel like there's obviously way too many clubs because of just that fragmentation of the mentality of people saying, well, I'm just going to go start my own club because so-and-so doesn't do it the way I like to do it kind of thing. And I grew up in a lot of ham radio clubs, especially in my youth and stuff like that. And so I've been witness to seeing some of that fragmentation, and it never really turns out good because what ends up happening is that something, changes that second club's dynamic for another reason. And then they go back to where they, roots started. I would throw in just a caveat, if you think you can be the change, and the positive change, I think takes time. It's never overnight. You can never turn you can't turn the Titanic on a dime, as they say. Yeah. So you have to spend a little bit of time. And funny thing is that a lot of the clubs that seem like they're dormant or dying is only because that the people that had the passion, the people that had the interest, either have gotten older and changed their views and no longer have the energy to do that type of stuff. And there was nobody to pick up the baton to carry it on. That you can do that, but you have to do it with a level of trust, because a lot of people that are older don't always trust the younger folks. I mean, I know for a fact that it took me a long time for people to trust that I wasn't going to be the barnstormer and burn everything down and start fresh again and, throw away years of, things that they do in the club. But it took a long time, and you have to be patient. So patience does help, but positivity can also help too, because it can actually just reinforce you and the trust that they need to, kind of learn, over time with you. And then once that happens, like your friends, you just all of a sudden start becoming this hey, Eric was doing so-and-so in the club, and, all of a sudden I want to start doing more of that. And then it just becomes this infectious thing because, again, you're positive about it. You don't listen to the negative. you don't enforce the negative is a better way to say it.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point about the fragmentation. And that is something to consider. And I guess that's kind of what I was trying to say is, you don't want to just go start a new club to compete
don't do it just
with
for the
another
reason,
one.
yeah.
Right. I give you an example here in Connecticut. We've got a handful of good clubs here. But there wasn't a club necessarily focused on POTA. So just yesterday or today, they finally made it official. We now have a Connecticut POTA club, right? And it's not there to compete with any of the other clubs. It's just there to do POTA. And for those of us that enjoy POTA to be part of, right? We can organize outings and stuff and focus on that. And again, that's not something to compete with the other clubs. It's just something to augment them, right? And focus on that niche.
Interesting. Funny, it's just like what in the ham radio hobby, what do we compete with? We're all ham radio operators. Like nobody owns a quarter of the market, which is kind of funny. Like, but we all treat it like we have a specialty that no one else does. Like,
yeah, and that's a good point. And I was trying to, that's what I was saying before too, is that we're all on the same team. We all like radio, right? So it's funny that we argue with each other so much.
Well, it's funny you say that. It's a short story. Is like we've been doing community outreach with our, within our club here, and we do like a lot of 4-H events, and it's well received. Like the kids, the families, everybody loves it. They're like, we want more, and people are reaching out to us, and it's like, they're coming from like halfway across the state. So like, we've got an opportunity to go do the same thing out in Portsmouth. And that's a good 45 minutes to an hour away, not in our area, but you know what? There's a Portsmouth club out there. And we're like, hey, do you guys know about this? And they're like, no. I'm like, do you guys do this? And they're like, yeah, sort of. I'm like, well then, okay. Let's sit down. We're going to share you what we do, and then you're going to come with us, and then we're going to hand it over to you, and you guys will service your area, because in essence, that's where you have the strength, not us. I don't want to be in your area because I've got Merrimack and all of southern New Hampshire to kind of cover, kind of thing. And so that's what I try to solicit a lot of in a positive way. It's like, I can give you what we have. I don't own any copyright to any of this stuff. Like, let's just go do it. I mean, why is it so difficult that, ham radio operators think that they invented the internet, so therefore they have the patents on everything.
But see, that's a good example of collaboration, right? You've got this thing that's worked for you, and there's some interest, in another part of the state. So now you can reach out and you can share that with them, right? And they can take it or leave it, but if you give it to them, in a positive way and say, look, here, you may want to look at this and stuff. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but that's what it's about, right? Is that positive collaboration and stuff. Right. And if they don't take it, that's where you say, okay, well, I'm not going to get mad about it, right? They're not going to do it. Okay, whatever. We'll keep doing our thing over here. And to your point about the fragmentation, that's where it kind of creates that. But at the same time, what can you do? You don't want to get mad about it. So.
Yeah. I mean, for whatever reason, you look at Carlos and Parachute Jesus and Paul. They both obviously are. They're skydiving radios. They're not going to fight over who makes the most contacts. They're going to be like, dude, we're going to keep adding to our ranks.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say, like, in that regard, right? When I expressed an interest to Carlos, like, he could have very easily, been like, nah, you're not ready, because, like, I didn't start doing this until I was thousands of jumps in, and like, I think I was at jump number 54 when I first jumped to the radio. But he very, very clearly talked to me and went through everything. Was like, look, I don't want to gatekeep you. He's like, I just want to make sure that you do it safely and you do it smart. He's like, so however I can help you to do that, he's like, I'm there for you. And that's huge. Like, I wish more people had that mentality.
Yeah. And he's a great example, top-notch guy. He wants to see you succeed. So he's going to help you, right?
100%.
And that's what I'm asking is we all want to see everyone succeed, right? So let's help everyone. And that goes back to my story about my Elmer and the stuff he taught me, right? When I was first learning, I was concerned because back then, no code tech was a brand new thing. And I was reluctant to get my license because I was afraid, I don't know code. Everybody's going to, give me a hard time.
They're going to judge you.
You're a loser. You're a loser.
And he says, you know what? Maybe they will. He said, but you'll have your license.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And so, so I got my license, right? And I got on the air and I talked to people and I found people that were like-minded and made lifelong friends, right? Mm. And that wouldn't have happened if he hadn't encouraged me to do that. And I'm sure the same is true for you, Paul.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, the funny thing that I think people get hung up on with it, when we talk about Elmers a little bit, like they feel like they have to be like the ones that have the PhD, that have the EEs, all of the degrees, and like they've been doing it for 20 plus years, and they know how to hold the right side of an iron, and they can solder SMD versus regular through hole stuff. It's like, guys, an Elmer is someone who just gives you his time or her time to you to be able to help you through learning something. That's really all an Elmer is. They're just like a little bit of a guidance. They create a little bit of the barriers, to helping you not kill yourself. But at the same time, they're the ones to get you a little forward into whatever goals you want to reach. And that's, those are the people who are worth their weight in gold versus the folks that, oh, you got to read this manual and you got to pick up the ARRL antenna book and read it cover to cover before you talk to me kind of thing. And it's like, oh, guys, come on.
Well, and that's where Paul. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Sorry. So it's just kind of coincidental. Earlier today, I watched a video where a brand new ham went on their very first pod activation, and the video was painful to watch. And it wasn't because of the video quality. It wasn't because of the content. It was because the Elmers that were there weren't being good Elmers, and it frustrated me. And so, like I would never consider myself an Elmer to other people because I don't think that I have that ability to give to people. But in retrospect, right, I truly do, because like I just commented on the video and I was like, look, it's unfortunate that like people are praising this situation, but it really wasn't a good situation, and here's why. And like, so I just kind of laid out some helpful tips of ways to prepare ahead of time. It's like, okay, well, look, if you're uncomfortable on the radio because you're brand new, perhaps a script might help. And in addition to a script, maybe it would be helpful to also have, well, what are my Q codes? And you have a little cheat sheet of your Q codes. Have a little cheat sheet for the RST system. Just have somebody there with you that's willing to explain to you, well, okay, why am I saying QRZ? What is QRZ? What does that mean? Oh, QST, what does that mean? Why are you telling me to say that? Right. And to me, like, I guess that's where, I had that misconception in my mind that an Elmer needed to be somebody that was super knowledgeable in all things electronics and all things radio and propagation and everything, when really it's just being that person to support and guide that new ham.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, you make an excellent point, Paul. Yeah. And it goes back to your statement about Carlos, right? He guided you to make sure that you were going to do this safely and within the confines of, what you needed to do, and helped you set priorities on the things you needed to pay attention to first. And then, bring the radio along second, that kind of a thing. And that, as Elmers, and like you, Paul, I don't necessarily consider myself an Elmer, but I think I've kind of fallen into that maybe by accident. Mental. And so, yep. So like you said, Paul, it's important to just guide people and help them in a positive way, give them that information they need to be successful, and explain those things. And in some cases, like you said, it could be a huge information dump all at once. Okay, we got the Q codes and we got all of this and that. And, somebody's not going to absorb it the first time through. So it's important to try and give them the basics and then answer their questions and hold their hand through it until they get that level of proficiency where you can let them go on their own and they can do it, the way that they need to. And then they can pick it up and run with it.
Well, question for you, Rob. Do you find like more the new hams that you come across, are they more the hands-on kind of like I got to do? Because like Todd shared with us in the past, he's like, if I can do it in front of you, whatever it is, and get it down, then I'll understand it better than just you telling me what I need to do? Do you find like the folks that new hams you come across that are like that more, or, it's kind of a mixed bag?
Everybody's different, right? But and you'll probably remember this, Eric. One of the things that I've picked up from doing scouting with my son, and it's going to sound a little maybe cringy, is this EDGE method that they teach in scouts.
Yeah,
right? Enable, demonstrate, guide, or explain, demonstrate, guide, and enable, right?
Okay.
And I've kind of picked up on that, especially working with the boys now that I'm one of the leaders of the troop. It works, right? And so I found that even dealing with, just local people that I know that are hams that are maybe not super active or new hams, or even when I'm trying to make a video, right, where I'm trying to go through something a little bit technical, I try and follow that method, but I also try and listen to the person that I'm working with and try and get on their level, right? Because there's some people I'll start talking to that are smarter than me, right? And I don't even have to finish explaining whatever it is I'm explaining, and they already know it. And 5 minutes later, they're going to teach me about it. And that's okay. I'm willing to learn. And then there's other people that, they're going to need more hand-holding. So I try to, learn the person and kind of figure out what it is that they need to know. And I try and feed it to them, in those small bites, right? And when they do screw up or whatever, I try to be positive about it. Don't worry about it. Okay, you made a little mistake. No big deal. We'll fix it next time. Let's move on and do this. Or don't do that next time because you need to do this instead, or whatever, right? Or this isn't safe. Don't put your antenna up in the power lines. Those things.
Yeah, it's very different than when you and I grew up, Rob, where like if you got in front of a transmitter, you could kill yourself because there were transmitters that were like to that level. But like now where we're more appliance, antennas are really kind of more the problem in your environment. But those are small little like speed bumps, I think, in the grand scheme of things. Because I remember when I was a younger ham, I was so scared of like being in front of a radio sometimes because if it wasn't a solid state modern radio, when someone put me in front of a separate transmitter and receiver, it was like, okay, what does grid and plate mean? What's going to blow me up? What's not going to blow up kind of thing? And, what not to touch, or why do I feel this tingling on the desk here from the, kind of device, is that okay kind of thing? So yeah, it's very different now, but at the same time, like you said, using that method, it sounds like, it can be a good experience, either whether you're making mistakes or not. The mistakes aren't as like life-threatening per se.
Right. And the thing again, to bring it back to my whole point, is to be positive about it. And this is what works with my scouts. It works with my son. It works with everyone. Especially when I meet someone new, I don't tell them how long I've been licensed or how many radios I own or this and that or whatever. I ask about them and I try to find out what it is they want to know or they want to do. And, we tackle that, right? And I say, well, I can help you with that because I know about this and this is how we do it. Or if I don't know, then I'll say, well, gee, I'm not real familiar with that. Why don't you talk to Eric? He's the expert in that, right? Or, whatever. So,
or even let's figure it out together.
That too.
Yeah, that's the other too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a good way to kind of mentor people. I mean, that's, again, one of my pet peeves is when these guys, you meet a ham for the first time and they tell you how long they've been licensed. It doesn't really matter, right? Somebody could have been licensed last week and know more about electronics and radio theory than you do because they've worked in the industry for, 100 years and they just decided now to get their license. It doesn't matter, right? We're all human beings and let's treat each other that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Compassion goes a long way.
Yeah.
There we go.
Does.
I think we can sum it up with that. That's the biggest thing here. Is like a lot of times people just don't have the time, I think. And my experience and just my only, in this is that a lot of we'll say this experienced hams not always have the, compassion to sit through hearing the same question over and over again, or hearing the same, I don't understand it. Can you explain this better to me? Format. And I get it, like, because there are new hams. I mean, obviously, Paul and I know Annie. She's brand new ham, and every time it's like, hey, go try get this antenna, and then like 5 minutes later we come back. She's like, what antenna do I need to get? Kind of thing. And it's like, and it's not to slam her in any way, but it's like she's just so excited that she wants to hear it, but she's still processing it. But then when you're trying to get back to the same thing of like you recommended, antenna XYZ. And then someone else chimed in and gave her like 4 other options. It's like, there's so much confusion and so much in front of them that to digest it is just impossible in the moment. And so, give them the grace, give them the, compassion to say, hey, I know you're going to come back around and we're going to have the same question, a week later or 2 weeks later or whatever. And that's totally fine because, hey, you might have a different answer too. I know.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And, that's a good point. And this goes back to something that Paul said earlier. Now, have you guys ever looked at, these online forums or Facebook groups or whatever, where people
the dumpster fires? Yes.
Every week, somebody asks the same question, right? And then always somebody comes back and says, this question was
just go
already asked.
search.
You search, right? That's where we're screwing up and I get it, right? We don't want to see the same question all the time. But here's the thing. I don't know. 9 times out of 10, that person isn't looking for an answer. They're looking for a friend, right? They're looking for an Elmer. And that goes back to Paul's point, right? They might not have an Elmer locally. They're looking online to have somebody help them through it or learn with them, right? So, okay, I don't want to see the same question over and over and over. I'm going to scroll past that, right? I don't need to answer it and say, go search, right? This person, it's 2026. Everybody knows they can search now, right? It's not 1995. So they're not asking the question because they want an answer. They're asking the question because they want an Elmer.
Yep.
Right. And if you're not
seeking a connection,
they're seeking a connection. And if you're not willing to be that connection or do that, then scroll
past. Space. Make space for somebody else.
Right. Don't
bury trash on top of them and say,
because all you're doing is you're turning that person away, right? That person's saying, there's nobody here I can connect with. So I guess I'll go play guitar instead, or, that'll be my hobby, or, whatever. So that's
the flavor of the week.
That's another challenge I have for people. Just, I know it's annoying. I see it too, but just scroll past it, right?
Well,
go do something else.
Would you say that because of the dawn of the internet and ham radio and everything, and a lot of these forums, that like the internet has become one giant ham radio club, and we've all just behaved like everybody, like I know so and so, they're just a jerk.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like we made our world smaller, but at the same time, we've also made more people pissed off.
Yeah, and we're a hobby about communication, and we often get that wrong.
TJ said that as we are the worst communicators. Have a hobby of communicators, which is true.
Yeah. He did say that.
How many people can't even get directions right to a ham fest? Sometimes it's like.
Yeah,
but it's the irony of it. It's like, I mean, you're a ham radio operator. You should be, skilled at communicating because like that's what you do for a hobby. But hams are freaking terrible communicators.
Some of them are, yeah. And some of this goes back to, and of course, being someone who's worked in the electronics industry for a long time, I know that electrical engineers tend to be like that. It's just, I don't know, it's just a personality associated with electrical engineers. They're not always good communicators. Very brilliant people, right? You have to be to be a good electrical engineer. But they're not always the best communicators. And that's why, I said it before and I'll say it again. When you get into that, circle with those type of people, you can't argue with them. Just walk away, right? They're not going to listen to you. Because they've already decided that you're inferior to them or whatever it is going through their head. You're not going to change their mind. They're not going to change yours. Just walk away and let's talk to someone else. Right. But if you are one of those people, try to stop and think about it for a minute and like some of these examples we've given, these people are new, they're interested, they have enthusiasm, they want to learn this stuff. It might not come as easy to them as it does to some people. So let's help them, right? Let's try to be patient and help them. And if you're not the person to do that, then send them over to Eric or Paul or whatever, somebody that will be patient, right?
Don't send them to Mike, because apparently Mike's really good with people skills.
Yeah.
Everybody's a freaking idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because like you and I, Rob, we kind of share a similar kind of paths in terms of, getting the, our ham radio ticket and that whole process. I do very remember having a few hams. And as I shared my story, like, you get to a place where they just like, you're not a ham is basically what it came across in the message. And that, for someone who's in the hobby, I learned that, I can either listen to that and just, say, hey, I'm not going to be a great ham radio because I can't get CW down, or, I, like you said, shut it out, ignored it, moved on, found people that I could surround myself with, and then, let them pour into my life that made something, of a positive attempt. And so I've always tried to do that. Like, I know when I met Paul, like, he came to POTA. He's like, what the hell is POTA? Like, he had no freaking idea. Like, what are you doing? Like, I remember, like, they both kid about it when we talk about it in our, previous episodes, where like him and Todd were both sitting in the same chairs. We're at a POTA activation. They're all relying on me to figure out what to do. And they're like, I have no idea what the hell we're doing. We're just kind of here hanging out. But it was like, it was perfect because like they just like I didn't have to do much to kind of just get them, engaged, and they took off. And it was just like at that point, it was just like literally I gave them crack cocaine and they just wouldn't stop. And that's all that we ever talked about. And that was cool for me because I was like, okay, that's exactly what I want to see for a result. That someone gets super excited and gets passionate about whatever in the hobby. And it could be as small as like them learning their name in Morse code, or, as awesome as, hey, they're going out and doing POTAs every week with, weird, couples in the middle of Florida, in a battleground reenactment.
Yeah. Well, what you did, Eric, right, was you invited us to join you, right? You explained it. You answered our questions, and then you showed us everything with your radio system and the setup and how it works. And so it was the explanation and the demonstration and then us getting that hands-on experience, like that's what lit that fire. To where, and then I'm sure Todd has completely different reasons for loving Parks in the Air than I do. I love it because for me, it's a constant practice of emergency communications. Mm-hmm. Where can I go and what adverse conditions can I set up a radio station and make it work? Like, I love that. That's that fire for me. And for Todd, it's completely different, but you lit that spark in both of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate it. And you just gave me an opportunity to get away and, go play something I already enjoyed doing. So however you sliced it, it was still good. And that's kind of the message, exactly what you just said. And what I think Rob is definitely communicating is like, just be the change, in some form or fashion, something you're passionate about, just keep doing it, and people, attract, it's crazy. I can't sit here and tell you how I'm blown away every time a club invites me to go talk about POTA. I'm like, I don't have the corner of the market on POTA. Like, I don't have like the degree in POTA. Like, I don't have a certificate to show people that I am a certified POTA operator. I'm the worst person. I tell people online all the time, I forget coax for my antenna, like stuff like that, stupid things. And they're still coming to ask me like, hey, how do you do this? What's, Ted's in the chat there, and Ted, he found me on, or he found our club, and then he found me. I was on YouTube, and he was like, dude, you do POTA? And he's like asking me all of these things. And I was like, Ted, I'll just help you along the way as much as I can. But dude, I'm not a professional. Go find somebody who's like, who knows more to me, but I'll put you in their path, and, you can learn more. And he's off doing it now, which is awesome. I mean, like, he's taking time away from his job to go out and activate parks, which is awesome.
Yeah, but it's like I said before, people aren't looking for an expert. They're looking for a friend, right?
Exactly,
you don't have to know
100%.
everything. You've just got to have an enthusiasm for it and be willing to help them with the things they don't, have a full grasp of. And if you don't either, then you both learn together, like Paul said earlier.
No,
right?
I did not. Come on, Ted. Don't convince yourself otherwise. You ever hear the phrase "fake it till you make it"? That's exactly how I do Poda. Good to see you, Mike. Good to have you in the chat. Thanks again for hanging out.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, and get on it. Like, start putting your story out there. I want to hear Mike's story and get it over to Rob for sure.
Yeah, or post it on your own channel. Doesn't matter. Let's just hear it.
Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome. I know he's posted some other stuff, but this would be really cool to just, circulate as many places that we can get it to everybody and just, be a positive light for the new year for sure.
Yeah. Let's get things positive in 2026.
So very cool. So so I guess if folks are interested, so if this has sparked something in you, what's the best way? What do you want? You don't care what format, what's the easiest way for folks to kind of just get that, story to you if they want to share their story with you?
If you want to share it with me, just, whatever's easiest for you. I mean, send me an email, if it's a long story, or leave me a comment, on one of my videos. I'll see it that way, or post it yourself. You don't have to have a YouTube channel. Put it on Facebook or whatever social media you're on. Or if you're not a social media person, like I said, go to your club meeting and talk to your buddies about that rare POTA park that you worked, or whatever, or you did your first POTA activation. Tell everybody about it, or doesn't matter. But if you want to put it on my channel, or you want to send it in to the podcast here, feel free to do that. Probably email is the best. I mean, if you're willing to do a video, we can work out a way to share a video. I mean, that would be awesome. But not everybody's a video person, right? So send me an email or an audio recording, and we'll get it on the channel somehow. Or Eric will get it in the doing good section on this podcast, or tell it yourself. Like whatever. Yeah. Let's just get it out there.
If you tell it yourself, please just share, a quick text, whatever, hit us up on Discord, just to let us know that you did it. I mean, you don't have to tell us what you said or what you did, just so we can, say, hey, so-and-so, they shared their story, and just be an encouragement as just a motivator for the process, because I know it's tough. It is, Rob has, kind of said there, alluded to, it's like, it's not always easy to get in front of a camera and tell your story. For whatever reason, but sometimes writing it out, putting it in a Discord, recording it as here, if you want, use our voicemail number. You can call 978-233-1142, leave a message there, and we'll share it. We do goods, we do all that stuff, and if you've got some cool club thing you did, exactly like Rob shared, if you shared a moment with someone in POTA and you think it's, you wanted to share how simple it is, dude, that may invite others to, continue to spread the positivity. So yeah, it's really cool. It's something we're going to have to and I applaud you, Rob, for sticking to your guns and keep it going. And I want to keep, say from us here at Live Free Ram, keep us in check, because if we start to slack because we're just doing everything else, hey, you haven't done a do good, or you haven't, let folks know that, hey, they still have this platform to do it. I want to make sure that we keep this stuff going, because we can get bogged down with it all the time and get tied up in all of the, as you said, the drama. But, sometimes the positivity is that little impetus we need to push us forward to be able to do something, awesome in someone's life, no matter how small or anything in between.
Yeah, I agree.
So sweet. All right. Well, we hit it up a lot. I mean, anything else you want to add to that kind of, Rob? I mean, obviously people know your channel. You've been around for a little while. If you've definitely been in the ham tube space, any, nugget of truth you want to throw at somebody? I mean, you're obviously in scouting. So do you do a lot of ham radio stuff in scouting with the guys, or no?
No, no.
Okay.
We had one scout when I first joined in that was interested in radio, but he got his eagle and he's gone now. And I haven't found any of the other boys really have that spark just yet. But every once in a while I bring the radio out on a camp out, or we pull it out for Joda or something, and
that's what it's worth.
And try to keep that there. Especially every year we get a fresh crop of boys, so you never know. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, working with the kids, not just, on radio stuff, but just on camping and life skills and stuff. And like we've said multiple times here, I've learned a lot from teaching the boys, right?
You do.
And of course, I have my own son, but there's only so many things I can
You can't
tell
teach your
him
son so much.
that he's going to listen to, right? So it's and there's only so many questions he's going to ask. These other kids are thinking of other things, so it's been a great experience. But yeah, as far as the channel goes, I mean, if you want to stop by and watch some videos, feel free. If it's your thing, you can subscribe. If not, that's cool too.
Good stuff, man. I definitely say keep it going. Always interested to see what you come up with next. And it's always fresh because I'm not like, you go to certain YouTubers and they're like, oh, they always do the same thing. Like they always do radio reviews or they do, kit builds or something like that. Rob, you never know what you're going to get. It's like, it could be like, hey, you're fixing a lawnmower or, a buddy heater or a car door handle. Yeah,
it could be anything, right? It's the surprise of the week.
See, I'm going to throw out the challenge. Maybe you need to figure out how you can tune up those things to see will it antenna every time you touch it. But we'll see where you go with that.
Maybe you never saw my tree tenna video.
I do remember. I think it's in my list to go back and look. It was one of those things that I saw. But yeah.
But you're right. One of these days, I gotta hook a wire up to my lawnmower and see how many contacts I can make on it or something.
Dude, I'm telling you, I keep encouraging Grouch that he needs to dig up the old light bulb set that we used to have as kids that had the bulbs that would literally catch a tree on fire kind of thing, because they were unsafe by UL approved. Those things need to be tuned up. We need to see how much power they can handle.
How many watts will it take and how many transmission cycles before the paint starts to melt off the bulb?
Oh, dude, yes. That would be awesome. We got something in the making here. Very cool. So awesome. Well, hey, as the Boy Scout side of stuff, it is a little tough. I mean, I was a beneficiary of having a scoutmaster who was very much, he'd bring his HT everywhere, and it was always like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, can I play with your HT even though I'm not licensed, kind of thing. And so that was always the impetus to get me kind of like getting into the hobby and kind of start that whole journey. So maybe you just need to have a couple HTs around and see where see where it goes from there.
I'm going to try and put together a fox hunt for them this spring. We haven't done that yet.
Be cool.
So
that'd be awesome.
That nice. Might be a little more because it's more active, right?
Yeah.
Than just sitting at a picnic table with a radio. So we'll see how that goes.
Or hey, when it's funny you say fox hunt because I do recall one time our scoutmaster at the time, my mentor, he did that in our troop at a camp out that we had. It was like the boys were just kind of sitting around, whittling with their knives, which is never good at all because it usually ends up turning into spears or sharp objects to stab somebody. Yeah. He was like, hey, why don't we try this? And so, he threw a transmitter somewhere off in the woods and, we got a chance to learn how to, do it. We all failed miserably, but, I very much, it was a, experience of like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got some plans. We'll see how they play out.
Awesome. Anything last parting words you want to throw in there, Grouch?
Well, so I just want to say, in addition to sharing your positive story, right? I would also like to know, right? Since we're 2.5 years in on this show, right? In the last 2.5 years, has there been a show where we have really helped you? I would like to hear those kind of stories. In what way has the show positively affected your ham radio hobby?
Yeah, man, you're always throwing down the good challenges, buddy. Like, what is this algorithm doing to you? It's turning you into this like content mayhem or something. I don't know, behemoth. Awesome. Yeah, I love that idea. That's awesome. I always am pushing community. Always want to hear your stories. So throw it anywhere. You can send it in. You could hit it us up on the Discord. There's plenty of places to do that. So just, share it. Like what was a super excited, that motivated you, like Paul said, what positive experiences did you get out of it? Because I know we obviously, as the rule goes, like we didn't do it today, although I thought there was a lot of positivity in this show today. We usually do, something extra with Todd. And then after that, all our viewers fall off because everybody's there like, hey, Todd's helping us, get our extra. Todd's helping us get our, our technician or our generals. But, there's got to be a few others that already have those, licenses. What else are we doing? So we want to hear about it. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, let's put a bow on this and wrap it up. Rob, it was awesome to have you on. Thanks again for, getting in here and hanging out with us tonight. It was definitely a blast. Wish Todd was here, but he's obviously 3 hours behind. But there'll be many more times for sure. So awesome. Well, let's wrap this up. So yeah, as we always like to say, thank you guys again for joining Live Free and Ham and listening to us and being part of the community. Come over, contribute. Share us your stories, share your positivity and some of the stuff that's going on. Hey, if you have a do good, please add, or maybe if you feel compelled, definitely hit Rob up and share your story with Rob, just like I did and a few others. And I know Paul will be doing his soon. So looking forward to all of those stories coming soon. But you can definitely connect with us by heading over to our Discord, like we've said. Join in on the conversation and on this episode when it releases. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we promise that we will continue to catch that content up there and do our live streams for the new 2026 year. So keep an eye out for that and keep us in check, because we also have been saying we're going to do a Patreon only. We are so bad when it comes to this. I feel so bad that people stick around enough to want to be with us, but we appreciate every one of you. Trust me. And you can always leave us a review, or you can hit us up with a question. And you do that by leaving us a voicemail at 978-233-1142 and support the show if you feel so compelled to buy our Patreon and buy us a beer links. And as always, head on over to livefreeandham.com to check out this episode and a whole bunch of other stuff over there at our website. And with that, thanks again for listening. And from all of us here at Live Free and Ham, 7-3.
7-3. Thanks for having me, guys.
77.